Got to do this kind of quickly because I don't know how long the sun is going to stay. And what I have in this bag is 40 Morgan Kane books that have been published in English, all of them. Second tier. There. Does that do? Kind of. Kind of. Okay, let's speed through these. We don't have much light. Clap. I'm standing in the... I'll have to do... We read Monster from Yuma. This is a story with a lot of nerve. It's a guy who escaped from prison. He's quite a... He goes crazy, as I remember. He was someone that really loses his mind and he ends up staying off the grid. And let me open the ISO a bit here. There, a bit more light. When the light goes, it really goes quickly. Yeah, Monster from Yuma, to me, was a very good book. Not my favorite, but I know a lot of people really like this because it's a bit different kind of a story. I would put it, what has happened here? Tiers have gotten all mixed up. These shouldn't be here. There we are, more accurate. And where's the book I just put? Where did he go? Where's Monster from Yuma? There. Okay, to me, this book is people coming. All right, Monster from Yuma is a book to me that belongs in this tier. It's quite good, but not my absolute favorite. Hola, ¿qué tal? Then we have another U.S. Marshal story. This is The Devil's Marshal. It starts out in New York, where Morgan Kane is a made man in the newspapers. He's being recognized for the first time, and he's sent down to help out a plantation owner and a guy who's expanding a railroad down in Florida. It takes place out in the swampland, different kind of a setting, a bit exotic. I like it a lot. I think for me it goes kind of ahead of the Alaska story. And now we have people coming, so. Oh shit. My hat just went all the way down, almost. All the way down there. Ah. It took off in the wind, which is very amateurish. My hat just flew down almost all the way. Well, like a couple hundred feet. So a bit of a climb. This hat is such a temporary one. I gotta get a proper one sent over from the US because that's the only place you can get them. It's a Stetson Revenger. That's basically the one to go with. Stetson Avenger or Revenger, I don't know. Okay, this is a Between Life and Death. This is actually the first Texas Ranger story that Morgan Kane ever, the first mission that he sent on. This tells you how he becomes a Texas Ranger and how he's picked up as an outlaw and makes a transition. It's a very cool story, but a very good mission in Mexico. And he's with his friend Charlie Katz. And for me, it's an absolute amazing book. I would put it ahead of, at the top of this tier, I would say. If not up by the legendary ones, but I'm going to leave some space there. Then you have Return to Action. This is a title where I know what to do for light. Bear with me a second here. And we will see if we can get a little more light. Okay, we're back. We're going to finish this now. We've had some setbacks with wind and other travelers that are coming through the Paso Verse. I thought that was too early for that. I didn't think we were there yet. So, you know. Return to Action. That's a book where Morgan Kane has been married for 2 years of his life, which is a first for him, with Linda Swift actually. And he goes into town for supplies, and when he comes back, in the meantime, there's horse thieves that come through and murder and rape his wife. And it's a tragic end to the first peaceful time that Morgan Kane really has had. Spoiler alert, a bit late. It's an excellent story that sets Kane off on this revenge mission to avenge his late wife, and it takes him away into Mexico to chase down all 5 of these horse thieves. And it's a hard book to read. It's heavy what he goes through and what the people around him, and you see him become very hardened. This is actually the book before Rio Grande, where he's no longer a U.S. Marshal. He doesn't want to return to that, and he's just trying to drink himself to death, basically. It's a very good book. I would put it up here in the second tier. It's probably right there ahead of The Gallows Express. Revenging Angels. This is a book that takes place in Utah and along the Salt Flats, and it's a different kind of a story again, and in a good way. He is involved with a woman named Kate Coleman, this reporter that he's had this on-off relationship with for a long time, and she ends up not making it. And that's a spoiler. I shouldn't reveal what happens here. It's a pretty good book. It's not my favorite, I would say, but it does hold up. And it goes kind of down here. That's a U.S. Marshal mission story. It's a bit of a U.S. Marshal mission mixed with his love affair. Then you have The Demon from Nicaragua. This is such an interesting story, different setting. Almost like The Law of the Jungle or The Claw of the Dragon. But it takes it one step further. I think when I read this the first time, I was actually down in the area of Nicaragua, and I was kind of motivated by that. And not my favorite, though. I would say it goes down here. Probably, it's not the best, but it does hold up. I would put it down here, actually. Trying not to lose my balance here. To the Death, Senor Kane. This is a story where he goes up against a guy that has this whip called El Cuchillo, and he also has some help from his old friend Ed Zachary here. It's not that memorable, but it's a good story, and I would put it in this category. This is the original, very first Morgan Kane book that was ever released. It's called Without Mercy in English. I don't have that title with me. I can't find it. Maybe perhaps it's buried somewhere. I don't know. But nevertheless, this is the title that's being released on book.io these days, either tomorrow or next couple of days. And it's a fantastic story that introduces you to Morgan Kane. It's so much action from the first page on this one. Like, by the time you're done with the first chapter, you're way in it. There's no way you can put it down. And Kane narrowly escapes death and against people that have been plotting this personal vendetta against him, and he comes back basically to avenge to take revenge on all that, and he does it outside of the law, takes matters into his own hands. The problem is he's been shot through the hand here. This is where the finger goes lame. It also features Charlie Katz, and there's some epic scenes. I'll probably talk more about this separately because it's such a good story. It goes all the way up in the top tier. It's an excellent story. It ties directly to Revenge, but it's not as good as Revenge in my opinion. It's right behind that. Let's see what we have. Only a few books left now. Bear with me. Bell of Death. This is a story where Kane basically is doing some R&R. He's taking some time off, and he's a U.S. Marshal normally, but he's basically told his superior that he needs to take some time off. And what I really liked about it is the prison break that's in here, the ancient treasure, the English group that's on a safari, completely out of their element. The first half of this actually feels like a movie, much like Indiana Jones, but it doesn't quite deliver all the way, but it's got some very cool elements. So I would put it actually up, and because of the interesting parts of this, I'd put it up here in this category. Almost there. Pistolero. This is a title where Morgan Kane is a newly appointed U.S. Marshal. I think it's his second mission or so, or one of his very first. It didn't stand out like some of the other ones, but it certainly does hold up. So I would put this in this category here. Then you have Marshall and Murder. This is an excellent entry into the U.S. Marshal story. It's actually the first one. It's the one that Kane has just been appointed to his position, and he's sent after this gang of train robbers that no one's been able to pin down. And there's a circus involved. This just feels like something out of a James Bond movie. It's just a great story with big action at the end, with a runaway train, and this is one not to miss. I would put it up here in the top tier because it's just quintessential Morgan Kane. We have one more Texas Ranger story called The Star and the Gun, the third published in the series. It's not the one that stood out the most to me, except for the final chase sequence. There's like a 150-mile gallop from fort to fort, where he just jumps from one horse to the next and throws a bucket of water over him just to stay fresh, and he's just going for it to get to a certain place in time, a place where there's no railroad and there's really no alternative. So, it's a decent book, but not my favorite. I would put it here, down there. Okay, looks like we're at way's end here. We have 2 books left that really should be treated as one, and they're called El Gringo and El Gringo's Revenge. And they really should be treated as one book because it's one story, and it's got these bookends that ties it into the bigger picture when he's U.S. Marshal. And these books I've gladly given years of my life to, because it's such a legendary, epic story. It certainly gets top ranks. It's at the very top of everything. And it's different though, and it's more like an origin story where Kane was 21 or so, 22 years old. And in all those years where I was developing a movie from this was my choice from the series of books. And I scouted all over the world, finding locations and actors in preparation for this, and we had this really lined up and dialed in. But the one thing I never could find was this giant dam that gets built by this American engineer named Borden. And he uses his engineering skills to control the water in the region, and controls all of it with irrigation flumes, and to the detriment of the rest of the valley. And we could not find a dam that was appropriate. And we looked high and low all over Mexico, all over the US, and just now in the recent year or so, I found 2 dams that are absolutely perfect for this. So as I set these books down, let me show you here. I'm going to grab this one, I think. Normally I don't mind standing here, but it's so windy today. I think it's